So, JBM, I know you had some musings a little bit that actually turned into a question that I think we all want to talk. So go ahead and tell everybody what that is.
Okay. So, I'm reading a book right now called Operation Paperclip, which, go figure, is about Operation Paperclip. During the aftermath of World
Is
War
this the one
II,
you're
when
you're doing on audiobook? Because it's taking you longer to read this one than normal.
it is the worst. It is the worst voice I've ever heard for an audiobook. I literally feel like Siri is reading me the book. It's painful sometimes. Like the information is so
So get the
interesting, but it
paper
is.
book.
Yes, actually read it. Like,
Do a
yes,
do a quick thing
it's
on
painstaking.
paperclip. Do a quick summary on
Yeah, what's
Okay,
Operation
that?
Paperclip.
so quick summation of Operation Paperclip. In the aftermath of World War II, basically after the when the war was over and we all knew, all the Allies knew, all right, Germany's done. So I guess the war is not even technically over yet because we still got to deal with the Japanese, but. Things are wrapping up, and there was this specific bridge that they said when they crossed it, it was like a free for all. The British, but mostly it was the Americans and the Russians, but the British and then eventually the French even were just like, dude, we got to get these scientists as fast as possible so we can take all of the German technology so that we can advance ourselves. And it's super shady because ultimately we brought over 1,800 Nazi scientists, some of which were directly responsible for some of the worst things that happened in the concentration camps. But during this book, as they're talking about that and how they got around some of that, and some of these guys ultimately did end up being hung in Nuremberg and stuff. But as they're talking about some of the things these guys did, a lot of what they did, the Joseph Mengeles of the world, who we didn't bring that guy over. We never could find him. He died in Argentina, had an old age from an aneurysm.
With Hitler.
But
Rest in
huh?
peace.
I said with Hitler.
Yeah,
With Hitler. No,
This
Hitler's
euchre,
still
buddy.
alive. Anyway, but a lot of what these guys did is they did all these human trials for all kinds of stuff, and they did it for if you could freeze someone and bring them back. They did, I mean, horrible, horrific things. But they also did some stuff in terms of using vaccines, because they were testing. Their purpose was, we're going to test to see if we can infect an entire population with this deadly disease so that they'll all die. But then they were like, okay, what if we get it? Can this make us, better as far as antidotes or treatments go? Can we get this vaccine to make us better? And it made me think about now it kind of started as a joke when I originally said this, but a while back we talked about the death penalty. So we're not going to get into that debate again, but if you're going to have a death penalty and we're going to have these people that we just stick on death row or whatever, would it be a good use, or could we just say, I'm not saying, hey, freeze them to death and see if we can bring them back, but COVID's going on. No one wants to volunteer for the COVID trial because we didn't know anything. We don't know a whole lot more now, for that matter. But should we just use these people and give them this vaccine to see what the side effects are, and be like, hey, here's your contract. You don't you're still getting life. You don't have to die, but you're gonna do these tests for us.
You might.
I mean, you might. That's true. That's also true. But I don't know. Basically, long story short. Should we be able to use prisoners who are on death row, or for that matter, maybe they even have life in prison? I don't know. But should we be able to use these people as essentially human guinea pigs? And I guess if you wanted to take it a step further, you could even make it hey, this means you don't get the death penalty, or if you have life, hey, this means you're only going to get 25 years. I don't know. But that's a little deeper into the question. But, should we use these prisoners to test things for the healthy, law-abiding citizens, so to speak?
Yeah, I can start. First of all, what makes it so egregious for what happened during World War II is that those people did nothing wrong.
Yeah, they weren't.
And they,
let me roll that back so no one misunderstands.
No, I don't think anyone misunderstands.
The Jews were criminals.
You didn't say that. I just wanted to point out what makes that so terrible. Those people did absolutely nothing wrong, and they were having these experiments done to them. That being said, I do not think that these people who have done something wrong should also have experiments done to them. Um, and the
Against
reason I
their
say
will.
that is, okay, so that is a big point of it. I do believe that experiments should be done and will be done, but you should ask. I think the first population that should be asked if they would like to participate in some sort of trial is prisoners, especially prisoners on death row. I think that's a great opportunity, whether they get, because I'm pretty sure they still get paid, like for doing little tasks and stuff. So it's an opportunity to be paid, maybe lessen their sentence as you already described before, but some kind of like incentive to allow them to participate. Of course, I think there should be an option for them not to, unlike the
Of
Jews
course.
and others in concentration camps that had no option. But I think it is a great population to test things on. I mean, if they're willing to do it, why not ask them if they'd like to?
Yeah, I agree. That was actually basically exactly what I was going to say. I think you could have an opt-in form because we talked about a little bit about how people who are on death row, there's a lot of them who admit it, they want the death penalty, so they know they're going to die anyway. And so these are people that we know are guilty. And then there are other people who are not guilty and probably shouldn't, or definitely shouldn't be on death row, or people who may be going through an appeals process. And maybe you say that, you know, if you're going through an appeal process, or if you don't want to participate, but you can kind of present it to some of these people as, hey, you know, your life is going to mean something, because some of these, mostly men, probably maybe all men, they still kind of have that pride to them, you know. If you say, hey, we're creating,
No, we just executed some lady here in Indiana a
well,
few months ago.
okay, well then, yeah, but still mostly men. We still have like a pride where you say, "Hey, we're trying this experiment out, and if you're the one this works on, then you know you'll be known as that. People will know you as that." And that might incentivize some of these people to say, "Yeah, we want to do that." The real question is that inhumane anyway, right? To just say we're going to try this on humans. I personally agree with everything Piano Man said. I think if people want to try and be a part of an experiment, there has to be some credibility to doing some human trials early to be able to make sure these things work. Because how many times, and we're talking right now about the COVID vaccine, of whether or not it actually works or actually does what it says it's going to do, because we didn't really have a whole lot of time to test it. There's people who don't want us to test things on animals. So I'm thinking like it's probably a good thing to be like, hey, does this work? You know? But
Probably.
you don't well, right, because there's so much out there that I think people make that they test them in labs instead. Like, oh, we put this up against some chemical and it worked, so now you can take it, right? Like, it doesn't go to try like human trials till way after they think it's okay. So I do think we have to look at it from a somewhat of a humanitarian standpoint, where we don't just have people raising their hand, because I think wasn't there also something where somebody was like here recently, they were injecting people with something that gave them the polio vaccine, and it was just some sort of like
I think
tribe.
have you ever heard of this guy named Bill Gates? Because I'm pretty sure it was Bill
It was
Gates'
like a
company.
Clinton thing. It was like a
was
Clinton
in-
thing.
I don't think it was the Clintons. I think it was Bill Gates' company. It was in like India, right?
Yeah. And they gave them all like smallpox or something. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly, but it
Yeah,
was
they all
something
got
really,
sick.
really deadly. And it was just, oh, well, I guess these people, they're just in a tribe. We're going to make them feel like they're a part of something good.
They're one of those poop
Yeah.
hole countries.
You can't just do that. You can't say, hey, raise your hand, because then what will happen is people who don't really want to, they don't know what they're signing up for, will end up with something really bad, you know? So I think what Piano Man said, starting out on a kind of people who don't really have rights, give them the option, and then maybe you can move, I don't know, people who are terminal, or people who are gonna die anyway. Maybe you look at them and say, hey, you know,
Do you want to be euthanized?
I mean, that's another debate. But there are people who say when they die they want to give their body to science, right? Well, what about people who are alive that might say, "Hey, I want to test
Give my
myself
body.
towards science"? Yeah, I don't know. It could go. I don't know if you could actually do it in a way that would be legal or wouldn't cause issues, but
Bro, can you imagine this for a second? Like, all right, so like during the space race, like everyone freaked out because they were so excited that Russia sent this chimp into space, and then they were super mad a couple days later when they realized they had no intention of this monkey ever coming back. But can you imagine if like a couple weeks later we just like blasted Charles Manson into space, like just to see?
Hey, you know what's funny is like, you know what our test population is for this COVID vaccine? It's all the
Old
doctors and
people.
all the doctors and nurses. Like,
That's
oh
true.
yeah, that's a really great test set for
Yeah.
Our new vaccine.
Yeah, the people that we actually need.
Yeah, the people that we need
Like-
to take care of it. Let's
But
give them
hey.
all this vaccine that we've tested for like a year, no, less than a year.
Well, and they had to halt whatever vaccine they had going around Europe because like there's a bunch of lawsuits. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Anyway,
yeah.
I think that's the spirit of the question.
What do you
I don't
think?
know. I mean, I think kind of along the same lines you guys do. I think it should be a voluntary situation, and you have to. I mean, you can't just. Pride is big in men, but I don't know that everyone's just gonna be like, yeah, sign me up if there's no incentive for them. And maybe all the incentive is, hey, you get an extra carton of cigarettes each month. I don't know. I don't even know if that's still a thing. I'm sure it's a thing in some capacity, but we're gonna give you an extra few prison bucks, or maybe we are gonna knock off some of your sentence.
Yeah,
or
I'd do it
something.
for a
But
carton of cigarettes.
but you're like, shoot me up. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It does seem like a way to expedite human testing, which if you think about it, like we have plenty of trials on stuff that like we think is all good. We've tested it on animals and lab rats and stuff for like 10 years, and then we start testing on humans and we realize it's not good. So what if we could find that out like 5 years earlier? Like that, hey, this is just a bad situation altogether. I don't know. It would allow people to have different jumping off points for stuff, and probably medicine would probably advance quicker.
Well, and that's where what we can do is when the United States introduces our social justice app, whoever just has the lowest score, you're tested first. Right?
No opt-in. It's all
Yeah.
based on your social
You're
credit.
you're a
All
one.
based on-
Who you're the
See ya.
sorry, Steven Crowder, you're dead.
Steven Crowder.
Well, his score would be pretty low.